I was surprised to hear that like not everyone has one, or sometimes, or another thing I hear sometimes is that people have crop plans that they're not like 100% proud of. I
Uh-huh.
urge everyone to take the time, and crop planning can be hard, like mentally, it's like draining.
Yeah.
And so when you feel that sort of frustration, walk away for a minute, but do go back to it. Don't give up. I think every crop plan should be seen through. So do it regardless, follow it, and then adjust from there, because it is the foundation of, in my opinion, success on the farm. If for any standard operating procedures to work, for us to learn from mistakes of the past, for us to adjust sales avenues, we have to have an idea of what is actually happening and what we're following.
Yeah.
It's the foundation. It's super important.
It's the Growing for Market podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Luke Sheldrick to the Growing for Market podcast. Luke and his partner Dana run Terramor Farm in Burnstown, Ontario, about an hour west of Ottawa. They grow vegetables and cut flowers for a CSA, local restaurants and retail, as well as 3 farmers markets. Luke is also a partner with the Market Gardener Institute, where he serves as a community expert in the Masterclass and teaches the Crop Plan Accelerator program. Through this work, he helps farmers improve crop planning, build strong systems, and create a more balanced and sustainable life on the farm. He is passionate about sharing knowledge to help others farm both profitably and happily. Without further ado, welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, Luke.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I think we had, put a post out on social media. I think that's how we got connected because, I'd heard of your farm before, I think perhaps through the Market Gardener Institute connection, but I was really happy you reached out because it sounds like a really interesting farm, and I'm eager to hear more about it.
Yeah, I was happy to see that post, and definitely I follow the magazine, of course. So it was a real exciting opportunity. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, let's get to it. So it sounds like you guys crank out a lot from your space, because I know on your website it says you sell to 20 of Ottawa's top restaurants, 3 retail locations, deliver over 100 weekly CSA shares, 4 distribution points, and sell at 3 farmers markets, all from 2.5 acres of vegetables and a half acre of flowers. So on the veg side of things, are there any crops you specialize in, or do you grow a little bit of everything?
Definitely try to grow a good mix of things. And then over the years, we've sort of been dwindling it down to try to be growing the things that we find are most efficient, like
Mm-hmm.
in terms of sales, basically. And yeah, no, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but like realistically, we just kind of have been shaving off the excess. Like originally, we would be growing brassicas and winter squash. Even snap peas, unfortunately, got the chop in
Mm.
recent years. So we've
Yeah.
been refining it to really focus on what the chefs like, but then also that tends to be what customers like at farmers market as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give chefs everything they like, of course, but there's definitely the top sellers that we try to zero in on by just like
Yeah.
keeping records and also sort of anecdotal information where we just kind of notice that things aren't really worth their space.
Yeah. On the snap peas, was it the labor to pick them, I'm guessing, that doomed them?
Yeah, and we had trouble getting like solid germination as well. And then we were doing things like planting them in the nursery to fill in gaps. And then we realized like you kind of just have to say eventually, like if we're trying all these different things and trying so hard to make this crop be profitable or be worth it. I've seen people have really great success growing them indoors, but we just don't have that space for ourselves. So we weren't willing to take that step. So that's just one of many that we had to sort of cut.
Yeah, it's protected space is precious real estate.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really smart because I think a lot of growers, and I'll speak for ourselves. Like when we first got started growing vegetables commercially, we did take almost like a one of everything from the seed catalog approach.
Yeah.
And as some crops are more profitable than others. Some crops are just more in demand than others, and that mix might be different for different farms. But it's really important, even if you grow a little bit of everything. Like I don't want people to think I'm totally poo-pooing crop diversity, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like your mix has to add up to something at the end of the day that is something with big enough margins that that it's profitable to grow and that people want to buy. Well, is there any, like, what are the crops that come to mind then for you? Like, you probably have, maybe you don't have to run down every single thing that you grow, but it sounds like you've been winnowing a bit. Like, what are crops that stand out in your mind for you that you've decided are like the definitely profitable ones that you're gonna like continue with?
Salanova, of
Yeah.
course, like salad mix.
Hmm.
Then the greenhouse tomatoes for sure, of course, as well. And then some of the strength is just in diversity of the ones that go well. And then over the years, we've just been sort of keeping records and refining so that we're trying to really grow the exact amount we need. And that's where the crop planning comes in, where we're growing the exact amount we need for what we can sell in the window of that crop's harvest window.
Hmm.
So that is the essence of the crop planning, and that's essentially what we're trying to do. So even this year, we refined our crop plan and limited our kohlrabi, fennel by half, because those are ones we just noticed were coming back regularly. We're still growing them.
Yeah.
Same with like scallions, and then we've sort of adjusted. So we're still growing a lot of diversity, still almost 30 different crops. But for me, I think the strength still lies in diversity, but in having the proper amount and the well-timed successions that you have hopefully exactly what you need every single week. And our goal is to really have consistency in product availability and product quality across the entire season for all of our sales avenues.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Can I ask you a quick Salanova question? I'm
Yeah.
curious because, yeah, we really love Salanova too. I remember when it first came out, and if people aren't, I think a lot of people will know what Salanova is, but I think more generally it's called one cut lettuces. I don't know if there's other names that you've heard for it, because Salanova is a brand of one particular line of
Yeah.
one cut lettuces, and I know other companies have come out with some that are good too. So the idea being that, I'll say what it is to me, you tell me if you see it a different way, but basically, like, the thing that made Salanova really attractive to us is that it was a way to harvest salad mix, but by harvesting mature heads of lettuce instead of doing the little baby leaves. And so the idea was that even though you're harvesting a head of lettuce, the individual leaves stay very small. And so what I wanted to ask you, Luke, is I know some people will harvest Salanova in the field by cutting it a little bit higher up. So you cut the head, and then all the leaves just kind of fall apart, because when you cut it above the growth point, of course, all those leaves release. But I also know some people deliberately cut it a little bit lower, so it comes out of the field as a full head, and then process it in a packing shed, and basically like cut the base off the leaf so that it comes into the packing shed as a head, and then
Okay.
you cut the base off and it falls into the individual leaves in the packing shed. How do you guys harvest your Salanova?
Definitely doing it in the field.
Yeah.
For me, I've found that that's the most efficient way. I actually haven't tried the alternative, but to me, that my perspective is I wouldn't want to be handling it twice. And we are actually able to get a second cut. Yeah, we're typically getting a second cut, especially in the shoulder seasons.
Mm-hmm.
During the main season, we try to time our plantings that we don't have to rely on a second cut,
Mm-hmm.
because it's harder. Just main season, it's pretty hot, and without like the really good consistent watering, it can get a bit bitter. So we're just always monitoring that and trying to avoid doing it if it's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the product quality has to come first. But yeah, we're aiming for the second cut is the short answer. So that's why we're not doing that. And to kind of mention something that you teased on, is another reason we grew so much Salanova, and one of those things where like happenstance helps shape your farm kind of.
Yeah.
We had a lot of quack grass starting out, so we were trying to do almost no direct seeding. We were
Yeah.
trying to avoid it as much as possible in our early years. So anything that we could grow landscape fabric, we were going for full bore. And that's what pushed us towards Salanova. We saw a lot of people doing it in the landscape fabric and really love it. It's a great generally pretty low input crop and high output, and everyone wants it. We love it. We're experimenting with Easy Leaf too,
Mm-hmm.
which is the other sort of competitor, which is much more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
and we're seeing great results. One thing that I actually haven't noticed myself, but I'm just going to take from what I've seen online and follow that,
Mm-hmm.
is that people are saying Salanova in those hot summers is a lot more successful than the easy leaf. So
Mm-hmm.
we're this summer going to put a more concerted effort in sort of observing that and save on the seeds in the shoulder seasons where we can go maybe 50-50 mix and then go straight Salanova in the main season.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting to see if that is indeed the case. Because, yeah, I know I've talked to some people who do really like the easy leaf too. Like we've mostly grown the Salanova, but I didn't, different,
Yeah,
different, different varieties might do better on different farms. So,
that's true. Yeah, we might have to do a side by side just for fun, a little bit of it, because we have to do a test. You can't just gotta do a little easy leaf in the summer to see a control environment.
yeah, that would be fun to do a trial. Should probably do that. And how about flowers? What do you guys grow for flowers?
That's similar to what we were saying. I think it's year 4 where we've done it pretty seriously. Like we actually did a little bit of flowers our second year, mainly because we had said on our market application cut flowers. So we're like, well, we're the only ones. There's one other person. We might as well start bringing the cut flowers. I think we ordered the Johnny's like market garden flower mix and planted a plot. And our bouquets were like, why is this so hard to make pretty bouquets? And it was totally because we had not a nice mix of flowers. But I would say more like 3 years. This will be our 4th where we've really been diving into it. Sidestep, which we could get back to, is that when we had John, our first son, we have 2 children, and we have
Okay.
a son and a daughter. So 6 years ago, Dana and I had built the farm really together,
Huh?
and we decided to go the route of sort of splitting like the tasks instead
Huh?
of trying to do both together with a child. Dana really switched to like home, and I switched to farm
Mm-hmm.
rather than tons of people do this differently. I think there's no easy way to do it. So
Yeah.
then we had our second child, who is now 4. So you'll notice the timing when I say 4 years. The flowers was well timed with sort of Dana starting to have an interest in coming back to the farm, like more involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's been running it and focusing on that, doing the crop plans and things. And then we were executing it. And last season was her first season really back on the farm. We had childcare for both kids. She had been like the mastermind of the flowers, and she finally got to like touch them. So last year was an amazing year. And the reality is that the starting of the flowers was a lot of diversity. And we've been over the years really trying to narrow it down like we do the vegetables, but it's
Mm-hmm.
harder. It's like there's so much beauty, and it's
Yeah.
harder to analyze the profitability as simply. And the whole crop planning process for flowers has been very different. They have a lot of different needs. I don't find it nearly as straightforward as vegetables. You can't slap in 100-foot and 50-foot beds as much. We're breaking them into, early on we were doing 10-foot. And now we've like, we by doing the process of sort of realizing what we like, we've limited ourselves to 25-foot sections
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of cutting it off there. Anything that can't justify 25 feet is getting cut off. So it's the same process, but I find it a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But
That's a cool metric of like if you can't play at 25 feet of it, it doesn't make the crop plan or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah. I know what you
we
mean
had to
though.
find a way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's so many cool species of flowers and you need a mix of course to make a nice bouquet. That's interesting to me because I know different people of course have different ways of figuring out how to make that crop plan work.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was other, like, we could die. I'll just quickly say there's other things because there's so many variables, and every time you add a variable, crop planning becomes harder.
Uh,
So like we standardized our landscape fabric for flowers
uh-huh.
because that was something we had to be trying to be mindful of which went in which bed with what spacing. And that
Uh-huh.
was adding another element of confusion.
Yeah.
So now we have landscape fabric is always 4x6 for flowers. And
Mhm.
then our patterns can fit into that.
Mhm.
Not to over nerd it, but like 3x9, 3 rows by 9. If I can get it off the top of my head, I think I'm right here. I don't know, but I think 3x9 is the same as 4x12 in terms of spacing, or I'm close anyways.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So we were doing decisions like that to try to play with spacing that we could standardize it on landscape fabric like that.
And that's different from the spacing for your veg landscape fabric?
For veg, I find it simpler because we just have we don't have to have a standard hole pattern across all of our landscape
Yeah.
fabrics. We have fabrics specifically for different crops.
Okay. And I think I think it's fine to over nerd it. I could be making this up, but I like to think we have a pretty nerdy audience who wants to like hear the details. So don't worry about over nerding it.
Great. No, I'll try. But also I was a little nervous that I might be like trying to pull those numbers from the top of my head. There's a chance that I'm not bang on with that, but I think it might be true.
Close enough. People have to check their people are going to I hope people will take this information and synthesize it into their own crop plans where hopefully they're doing the math. So they'll have to figure it out anyway, but that's they can check your work.
Cool. Yeah, please do. Maybe someone will say in the comments and call me out.
No, I think they'll say thank you for the idea. I hope they'll say thank you for the idea even if the math's not perfect. But that sounds about right to me. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free. Today's episode of the Growing for Market podcast is brought to you by BCS America. On our farm, we've had our BCS two-wheel tractor for over a decade, and with no belts to slip, its all-gear-driven construction is still going strong. Though we originally got it for rototilling, we kept it even when we went mostly no-till because it can do so many other things around the farm. From snow blowing to making raised beds with the rotary plow to chipping wood, it can do just about anything you might need on a farm with the right attachment. Need to shred a cover crop? A BCS flail mower will make quick work of even the most vigorous cover crop and chop it up so it breaks down quickly. Want to stir in compost or amendments without inverting soil layers? A power harrow turns your BCS into a precise tilthing machine with depth control so you don't mix deeper than you want to. With so many attachments to choose from, it truly is the Swiss Army knife of farm implements. It's why, instead of saying two-wheel tractor, so many people just say BCS. Tractors and attachments are on sale through the end of the year. Visit bcsamerica.com to find sale pricing and your nearest dealer. Seven Springs Farm Supply has been the market gardener's supply company for over 30 years. Their catalog includes a complete selection of organic fertilizers, pest and disease controls, growing mixes, and cover crop seed. Their experienced team is ready to help you problem solve and find the right solution for your farm and your goals. Seven Springs is committed to providing growers with superior products and service because they understand that their success depends on your success. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors and learn more at sevenspringsfarmsupply.com. Seven Springs Cooperative Purchase Deliveries are coming up. Visit their site to check dates and locations.
Hey, it's Lindsay from Grown By. There are a lot of farm sales platforms out there, but there's only one that's cooperatively owned by farmers. And that's Grown By, your all-in-one solution to simplify farm sales. I'm proud and excited to share 2 new features now available on top of the tools you already know and love. Number 1, our customizable CSA box builder. It allows your customers to simply say what they'd like in their share, and Grown By matches their preferences with your weekly harvest. Number 2, our new wholesale-only marketplace. Developed with the Culinary Institute of America, it makes your life easier with a dedicated shop for your wholesale customers. No more texting those chefs, combining retail and wholesale inventories and records, and, drumroll, automatic payments on due dates. No more chasing down late payments. These new features sit alongside our popular online sales and traditional subscription CSA tools, making it easier than ever to manage your farm's business. As you start to get ready for next season, we'd love to hear from you and see if our cooperative can be a partner in growing your farm. Visit us at grownby.com. That's GROWNBY.com.
What is your climate like there as far as first and last frost dates, precipitation, and rain versus snow and other agriculturally relevant weather?
I'm smirking because rain has been a problem for the past few seasons. We've had like maybe one good one out of the past 5, I think.
Yeah.
This last season was really challenging. Last frost, in my mind, is like end of April is when we're willing to put out some cold hardy crops.
Mm-hmm.
Last hard frost, though, like that's last hard frost.
Yeah.
Last frost, where we're willing to put out sort of peppers and tomatoes.
Yeah.
Is traditionally where we are May 24th. Like everyone says May 24 weekend in Canada. Everyone's celebrating that long weekend, and that's where people are gardening and putting out their first is end of September. And then hard is typically mid-October.
Mm-hmm.
This year we had a hard frost September 20th. So that was pretty rough for dahlia farmers in Ontario. I know there's a lot of people that were, and vegetable, like it's just not fun when you think you might get a few more picks off peppers or whatnot, and it's just gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's almost exactly our first and last frost dates here in central Maine. So
Okay.
very similar to me. Probably a lot of the country sounds cold, but also there's other parts of the country that are even colder. So
Yeah.
go figure.
Yeah.
And so you said with the rain, you mean the last few years has been very rainy or dry?
For where we are has been dry.
Okay.
So we irrigate from a pond, and it's been, this year it really did run out. It's the first year that it's actually run dry on us, and we've had other instances, other years where we've had to sort of monitor our use and be using it only for certain areas of need. But this year we were actually, like mid-August, some of our direct seeded crops were not germinating. Some things just simply weren't growing. So it was actually on paper a pretty challenging year. In the end, like the numbers added up. So that's I always like to look at the numbers. It's a good benchmark. It's unfortunate that money is the baseline, but it really is a great benchmark to run on, because you can go through a terrible year and you look at the numbers and you're like, okay, if it was that bad and we met our goals, then can't wait for a good year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the pond I'm guessing the pond probably made the difference, right? Because if you ran it dry, think about if you hadn't had that pond, that probably,
Yeah.
like the pond probably made up the difference between a normal year and a year like this. So glad you had the pond.
Yeah, that's the benefit of farming small, is that every single plot that we have is able to be irrigated.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we're using Orisha to automate the power for it. So we're running it, 3 times a day. And then we have to manually go and turn on and off the plots that we want.
Mm-hmm.
But we've set that up so that we have 4 sort of mains that are controlling it, so that we can have, like, we're not, in the early years, we were running around 21 plots, like turning this on, turning that off. And then we're like, there must be a better way. So we have now just 4 zones. All the headers are on the entire 21 plots roughly. And we sort of control the zones just with the main.
Okay, that's cool. And that sounds very similar to what we had here. I mean, this past season was, I want to say, the driest season that we've had here in central Maine, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Very dry. Most of the state was in a pretty severe drought. And that makes sense since you're west of us. And if anything, you might be farther south by a little bit than we are. I didn't look up exactly on a map, but you know how Maine kind of like sticks up into Quebec? Like whatever. We're probably on a similar latitude here, and then it's different. Like I know I'm friends with the guys at Orisha, and I was up to Quebec City in August, and I know they had all kinds of drainage issues, because it sounds like they had some really big rain events. Go figure. I mean, that's the weather. It seems like our weather's getting weirder, and it's that old thing about how, like, you could be really dry, and with the right conditions, someone pretty close to you could still be pretty wet. So I think we're all dealing with the weird weather, unfortunately, at this point.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like your farm grew organically. No pun intended, because I was reading on your website about how you guys started out with sort of more casual box deliveries.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like you got a much more extensive operation. Can you tell us about the evolution of your farm over the years? And also, I'll point out, you must be around the decade mark now, since I think it said you got started in 2015 on leased family land.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to. I'll tell the short version of a long story, because I love telling this story. Dana and I both worked in the restaurant industry.
Okay.
And one of our first dates, I took her to my parents' property to work on the farm. It must have been like a litmus test, I think, kind of. No, it worked. It was a great date. And we kind of like started a CSA as we began dating, because she liked it. I had been a bit familiar with the concept, and my parents, when I grew up, had gardens, not like commercial farming by any means, but gardens, like more of a homestead vibe. So I was not new to the work. And I had heard of the concept when I was going to university in Guelph. So we said to my dad, like, we want to keep coming out weekly to just kind of work in the gardens. It's nice. We live in the city. We work in the city. This is great. We both work in restaurants, so it's food, and the connection was there. So it's everything we were interested in. So that, like you said, grew naturally. We were just sharing the money with my dad, splitting it, and we sort of just texting friends. We had like 5 at the start of the year, and by the end of the year had 20. And it was surprising and amazing. And then we hadn't even considered sort of this as an option. But then I found the Market Gardener, which is a crazy thing, on the shelf at my work at the Whale's Bone. Jean Martin had given it as a gift to the prior chef there and signed it like, hey, Chloe, he remembers her, because I've since spoken to him about this. So it's really neat, those things that kind of putting things out into the world. And it's just sort of a really neat story that inspired us. I brought it home. I said, Dana, like, we should do this. I'm the ideas guy. I have always had tons of ideas. And this one, she was like, I'm actually into it. It's good. This one's good. Let's do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that was when we approached my dad. Can we actually lease land? We want to do things our way. We want to begin. He thought we were crazy. We were going to charge people in advance for a CSA.
Crazy.
Yeah, wild. Like, yeah. So, yeah, we did that for 2 seasons. And then there's a program called the CALA loan in Canada, which is a Canadian Agricultural Loans Act. It means you can have a government-backed loan up to $500,000 if you've been in business for 2 years. So we were fortunate that we had registered the business right away and leased the land, showed growth, and we were able to purchase. So that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And by that point, we had just started, like, the CSA had grown maybe to 40 members, and we had started to get some restaurants. And our goal that first year, when we took possession in the fall of 2016, like the next year, we knew we had to sell like 80,000. But that was pretty stressful because we took possession in the fall. We had to make a farm there.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah. There was no sort of room for error. So it's been like that ever since.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that about your background in the restaurant industry, and I did notice that it sounds like you guys sell to a lot of chefs. Do you feel like that give you an insight into the way that kitchens work to be able to connect with chefs?
I do think so. Yeah, I think, like, just maybe even on a subconscious level, just knowing how to level with them, having some empathy for their scenario, because I know they can get a bad rap with farmers. And every time I hear that, I'm kind of like, I love working with chefs. Like, but they're just as busy as us.
Yeah.
You have to be consistent. You have to send them reminders and have empathy for them. Yeah. And I do think we had a lot of ins, like we definitely did have ins within that community, but it grew naturally too. Like, we were only doing 3 chefs deliveries per week for like 3 or 4 years. It kind of blew up during COVID. And then that was when there was a huge jump. We had sort of gone from 3 to 6. And then during COVID, it went from 6 to 12. And then now we're quickly up to 20.
Well, that's great. Well, I like to cook, but I've never worked in a commercial kitchen, but it does strike me that there's similarities between farming, just as far as it's like a production oriented environment. You know, you like whatever happens, you got to get out the door, like what you promised to people and that kind of thing. So you don't have to answer this question, but do you have any tips? Like one farm that I worked on told us, like, when you're talking to chefs, don't go and tell them what you'll have. Show up when you have it. You know,
Okay.
so you're not like, oh, our tomatoes are so great, we're going to have them in 2 weeks. You show up when you have the great tomatoes, right? Because it's going to mean so much more for a chef to see what you actually have than to just like hear, oh, we have great stuff, right? So like, I always think about that. It's like, I mean, it's not a very complicated tip. I don't know. Is there anything either from working in kitchens yourself or from working with all these chefs, is there any, I don't know, tips or best practices for farmers who are trying to, because I know like a lot of people would love to break in, like get a regular restaurant account. Any tips for people on that? And if not, I realize I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have to say anything. Okay.
Well, no, I'm happy to answer that. That's something that I really am passionate about. Touching base with them in the winter, just to sort of try to get your foot in the door, is great. I think that's okay. Like, that's no problem. And you could even open the door to their input. within reason. Like if someone says, I need you to grow shiso, I'm not like, yeah, I'll grow your shiso. Or like someone said, can you grow me a field of cauliflower? And I was like, I'm not going to be able to charge what you want to pay for
Yeah.
that field of cauliflower. So you have to identify those sort of split points basically. But if they say like, I would love some salad, or does it come wash? You say yes, then they already have that idea in their head. They might be getting that from you. So that's a tip. Be professional as possible. So when we are approaching new restaurants, I do it every year. I make sure I'm there before 4:00. If I can reach out to them to find out the chef's name, what door to come in, if there's a way to find that info out before I go out, I do that. Then I've got a printout with info about us and our farm, a picture of us, and the backside of that has a sample price list. I've begun, instead of giving them my contact, I've begun like sort of part of the deal is I'm giving you this bag of vegetables. Can you please give me your contact? And do you consent to me adding you to our chef list? Because then you're not waiting for them to follow up with you. So those are just some quick tips about just getting your foot in the door. And then sort of my overall, once you do, is just professionalism. Make sure your fresh list is going out at the same time. Make sure that your deliveries are going on the same days. Make sure your invoicing is professional, either written and served with the delivery, or we actually just email it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
They are busy. They are just as busy as us. They have a lot on their plate, and you don't want to be a problem for them. So that's where I think there's a divide sometimes, where we have expectations of how often the chef's going to order, and he said he was going to take all this from me or whatnot. And I don't think we can always see eye to eye. We have to just take, like any relationship, a mutual respect.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good because that's a really good point. They're very busy, and of course, they're not gonna work with anybody that's slowing them down. Basically, like I think those are some good ideas of how to like respect that they're busy and say yes, chef, and it's like fit seamlessly into their systems that they already have going on. So
yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true sometimes. Like they're a client, and the customer is always right in a way, right? Like I mean, within reason. I've also dealt with some chefs that are not on my level, and I don't feel like I'm getting that mutual respect, and you don't have to stay in that relationship if it's not worth it.
yeah, well, I think every business probably has customers who are like problem customers, and so I think that that's a great thing if you can work with the chef and figure out how to work into their system. But yeah, if somebody, on the other hand, it can be hard, especially when you're starting out and need like all of the customers you possibly can. But we all know there are some customers sometimes that are more trouble than they're worth. And so, yeah, maybe that's like recognizing that if they don't respect what you're doing or pay on time, or there's a lot of different ways to not be respectful in a business relationship. And hopefully by the time you recognize that, you can also have enough business going to forget about them if they're not a good customer, basically.
Yeah, and diversification of sales avenues is important. That's one thing I should touch on before closing on the restaurants is you can't rely. I've witnessed some people and done a consult for someone where their entire business model was to sell like vegetables to one restaurant. Mm-hmm. That's obviously risky.
Yeah.
You can't be just planting for one or two restaurants. You have to sort of diversify and work that into your plan and that just comes with time too, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that makes sense. When you talk to people about that kind of stuff, is there any way to be diversified but not too diversified? Like, I don't know, I guess is it just because yeah, we can't put all of our eggs in one basket customer wise. On the other hand, I think some people suffer from the opposite of like overwhelm of just trying to do well. Actually, you guys do a lot. Between the markets, restaurant, like a lot of different places. So is it just a matter of having enough of a team or infrastructure to make good on all the commitments? When you have a very diverse markets, or like I don't, and you don't have to say it. Maybe you don't. I was just thinking about that. It's really a sweet spot, right? Because obviously you don't want all of your income to be coming from one customer, even one market. Like let's say you have like a farmer's market, and then like one thing that would happen to us a lot is that the markets when we had the most stuff is also the time of year when we get thunderstorms. And I think it's a pretty classic farmer's market thing. It's like if we were 100% dependent on the markets, we
Yeah.
could there definitely been times when we showed up with a lot of stuff and didn't sell very much because it rained the whole time. And I mean, I feel like that's a classic farmer's market example. So I don't know if you I guess my question is about finding that sweet spot. Like, do you have any ideas, the sweet spot between not being diversified enough and being so diversified that you're keeping track of like a lot of different markets and stuff?
I do think there is a sweet spot, I do believe. And I think it would vary for different people, and also sort of what your comfort is and so many variables. I think there's a lot of variables in that, because it's going to be up to the farm owner's threshold for stress as well,
Uh-huh.
and sort of what their systems are and some people don't like selling at markets, so they need to maybe try to diversify for wholesale. But our whole goal is to have no food going to waste. We do have one place that we donate to that's on our restaurant run. So we donated close to $5,000 worth of vegetables to them this year. But we are keeping an eye on what's wasted and then trying to adapt from there. It's important, though, to note, this is a great opportunity to say, we did actually, and we just are updating the website this year. Like, we shrunk our CSA by a lot. And it touches on exactly what you're speaking about here. We realized that one of our most inefficient sales avenues was our CSA program, because of the amount of energy going into the logistics of 4 pickup points, packing. Yes, we harvest all of it in one go, but then there's 10 different totes going to Almont, X number of shares, got to tick them off. 10 different totes of those same vegetables going to Arnprior, another community. And then we have the farm pickup at our farm. And then we have the Ottawa pickup, which goes with our restaurant deliveries on Thursdays. So 4 things. Then we have the 3 markets. And it was just feeling like, of all of them, that CSA was the most inefficient. And we actually got rid of 3 pickup locations last year because we were almost double dipping, because we have market locations within. Well, first of all, we're at the Burnstown Market, which is 5 minutes down the road. That's on Friday, and our CSA pickup was Wednesday. So that was an easy decision. So what we did was we marketed for all of those communities that we wanted to close our CSA pickups to purchase market cards. And we do those through Square. It's a great option for the people that were already getting our CSA. It's basically the exact same thing, but they are able to have full selection and they can spend what they want that week. So we kept the Ottawa CSA because we don't have a sales avenue for that one, but the 3 other ones where it was lacking efficiency basically still sold like 80% of, like, we only lost 20% of revenue on the CSA, which is when we needed it in the spring. So that was a bit of a fear of getting rid of it. And it worked out because we feel like we didn't lose 20% of sales, and we feel it was far more efficient.
Yeah.
Like, we did technically lose 20% of sales, but I don't believe we did because we just sold it in other areas.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, and you brought up the market cards, which is something I wanted to ask you about, because I know, I think you already answered one of my questions, which was, I know some people do like a market card CSA, and I couldn't tell from your website. It sounded like you were doing boxes. It was 2 separate things, like you were doing boxes. So that sounds like, am I correct that you are doing a traditional, like when you talk about doing a CSA, it's more like traditional, like people get a box. And then can you tell us the market card, does that work like a CSA, as far as, do people get a discount or something when they buy? Like, maybe I should you tell me how the market cards work, but do the actual physical cards themselves come from Stripe and then people load them? Or tell us how the market card system works for you.
So the way that we do it is we have the cards, they're connected with Square.
Yeah.
And when people purchase one, we preload it with extra money based on the amount they put on. And then they're eligible to use that at any one of our markets. But typically people are buying it to be a regular at whichever. We have the Burnstown community that people are going there, but they have the option to go to any market and one is on Friday, one is on Saturday, one is on Sunday. So they have free range of what's at the market that day. It just basically replaced our CSA at 3 different pickup locations because we were already going to market there. So it's really a pick your own CSA. The concept is the same. They pay in the spring, they get rewarded. They can go weekly, but it just has more flexibility than a CSA. And it's just marketing. It's just marketing it different. We still do the box in Ottawa, though. That's important to note. So we're still doing, that's a traditional box. We pack I think 20 to 30 shares based on, it's not huge. Our CSA has been sort of dwindling down, and that's kind of okay for us.
Yeah.
We're happy with that.
Okay. And you said you put on extra money. I mean, is it the kind of thing where people pay $500 and they get $550 on the card or something like that? Or like,
Exactly.
that's what, okay, cool. I like to get those details in case people listening are, considering similar kind of thing.
Yeah. And if we run promotions, we might even say 15%. Like we ran a promotion that was $575, and we might run that again for, say, February 1st. I'm thinking of sort of promoting that like 1 week, try to get a big push, and that's totally worth it.
Yeah. Does seem like that would be the time to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something we're working on now, is just sort of the marketing plan for the spring. Busy
Cool.
times.
Yeah. I mean, there's never a dull moment on the farm. I know people,
No.
Growing for market gets most of my time these days, but people would always be like, "Oh, it's winter, so you guys are just chilling, right?" Like, no.
You don't want to see the to-do list of a farmer in January. I don't think it's probably just as bad as the summer sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope people can find some time to grab a little downtime, but it's always a struggle on a busy farm.
Yep.
So I did want to ask you, though, so many farmers would love it if their kids would take over the farm. Did you ever think that you were going to farm when you were younger, or was it something you came back to?
Yeah, great question. I did not think I was going to farm. Like my dad actually specifically had the mentality that you couldn't make a living growing vegetables. I should preface by saying,
I've heard that from a lot of people who grew up on farms, that basically their parents telling them to like do something else.
yeah. So I knew how to grow vegetables, and I was interested in the restaurant industry. Like I went to university for anthropology, which is arts is kind of like, you don't know what you want to do, but you want to go, is like what I felt like. So yeah, classic. And then worked in restaurants. And yeah, I guess it was sort of happenstance. Even while we were doing it, Dana and I didn't really realize we were starting a farm. It was just kind of something fun to do. And then we started to invest our money that we were making from the restaurants into this thing, and saw the market gardener and saw it as an opportunity. So yeah, I definitely did not foresee myself wanting to be a farmer. I did see myself wanting to be an entrepreneur. I do like business, working with people. And I mean, it's such an honest profession. It's really like great work. We appreciate that every day. And we often talk about how great it is. It's just such a great line of work. We both just love it. Like you're outside working in the dirt. It's hard. It's challenging. And also I feel like there's so much personal growth that happens when you're like, I'm so thankful for a decade of challenges to sort of, yeah, they help shape us as people. We're really thankful for the work.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it really does, the work you do. I think about how people are with people all the time. That work shapes them. As farmers, we're at the whims of nature in a certain way. It's like the weather doesn't care whether you need to plant something that day. You know what I mean? Like it really, I know what you mean. It's the interacting with the natural world.
No. Yeah.
I know that on the website you say you practice no-till, no tractor agriculture and work mostly with hand tools. How much of a crew does it take to cultivate those 3 acres like that?
Yeah, we typically run a crew of 8 on the farm. And then we have some also like part-time market staff as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. I want to also mention that we can go back to that, but I don't like to say we're no-till. I like to say we're minimal till. We're heavily influenced by the principles of no-till.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, focusing on soil health. We can go back to that if you want, but I minimal till is what I like to be associated with.
Yeah, well, I think that's good to be flexible.
Definitely. It's an important thing to note, because for people starting out, if you try to go fully no-till, I think that can be a really big challenge when we already have a lot of challenges we face as farmers. And, if you got to plant a bed, it's okay to, we try to shallow till, like we do have a tiller. And if we have, I guess we could get into it. We could go back to the other one, but if you're okay, I like to say we have the 3 bed prep models, and we're big on SOPs on the farm, so we could get into that too. But we noticed that there was a lot of lack of clarity around what bed prep, what the steps should be.
Yeah.
So we have 3 sort of standard ways we do it, and they're called no-till, minimal till, and mow-till.
Uh-huh.
So no-till is when like there's a nice crop. Maybe we're pulling up Salanova and like pulling up landscape fabrics, and that you don't need to till. We're just broad forking, amending, and then running the wheel hoe over it, and then a rake. And that's in those steps, everyone knows that's the process. And then sort of minimal till is where maybe there's a bit of debris that needs to be worked in, that we just want to get the bed planted, that needs to be, we don't have the time. So we would probably quickly hand weed it or something like that, but then use the tiller to just get it to a workable soil type, because that is like functional soil is also really important if you're running a direct seeder or need to transplant. Lastly, if we've lost to the weeds, mow-till is where we are rebuilding the bed. And that's just like, you're still using the principles of minimal tillage, because ideologically, the layers are still in the bed. You're taking the aisles and burying the debris of the problem.
Yeah.
Then we're broad forking, and then we're still going to shallow till that as well to sort of get that, what we've thrown in, to be workable again.
Yeah. Cool. Well, okay. Thanks for that summary. I think people are always interested, everybody's bed flip. Sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're different. So I appreciate you telling us how you guys do it.
Yeah, I don't want to be confused for no-till either. Like, there's some really great no-till farms out there, and we're not a great example of it. We're just like a functional, trying to do our best to incorporate cover crops where we can, and putting in organic amendments, of course. Like we do 50-50 alfalfa kelp, and Actisol is a product of Canada that's an organic chicken manure.
Uh-huh.
So we're amending with that, and some compost, but like not 6 inches of it.
Yeah.
When we can and where we can, we're putting it.
Yeah. It's also such like different people. I don't know. I guess I don't want to go like all the way down the no-till rabbit hole, but it also just matters so much what different people consider to be no-till. Cause like, I feel like, I feel like it's pretty legit to say that if you're using like a power harrow shallowly or something, to me that does it for me as far as being no-till, because you're not inverting the soil layers. But I know there's also people who take a more stricter definition and don't, like take more of like a no steal in the field kind of approach to no-till. And as a person, running a magazine, trying to help market farmers succeed, I just want people to find the system that's going to work for them, right? I mean, like in the magazine, for example, we've had articles about like pure no-till, and then we've also had articles about people who tried that approach that didn't work. They talked about why it didn't work for them. In some cases, they could do a few years of like more intensive tillage, get their soil right, and then get that to work. On the other hand, there's some people with such bad soil that actually works really well for them, just to kind of like build up and kind of like forget about the soil. Hopefully over time, the action of roots and worms and all the critters in the soil will, improve that soil over time. So it's like I try not to take a position on it really. I try to take the position of, I hope you can find what works for your farm. Is what was the position I take.
Yeah, and that is going to be different for everyone. I think that's really important. And that's why I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on that, because I think it's just, if you're starting out, farming is super hard. So try not to have like any strict ideas in your head about exactly how your farm is going to go with bed prep. I think personally, like we ran into quackgrass. I don't know how we would have, like we were drowning in weeds for 2 full years. Like we were just sort of, it was not a pretty farm by any means, but we got out of it, and it's starting to look like a pretty farm.
So the quackgrass is getting better over time?
Yeah, we just kind of strategically, like a bad spot, we'll dig it out. It still kind of comes in from the sides, but we'll just, like a bad spot, we'll dig it out in the spring. There's a lot of labor involved. And then that might be where kale will go that year, because like the rhizomes just don't get access to light, and you're losing battles, but winning the war over time here and there. We're just rotating. In the early years, it was really more strategical, like onions cannot go there, then you kind of, where you can and can't do things. And so it's sort of strategically winning the overall fields back.
Yeah. That's making progress over time is sometimes all we can ask for.
Yeah.
Well, so something you mentioned a minute ago that I also noticed from your website was your work share program, where people can work a certain number of hours for one of those CSA market cards you were telling us about.
Yeah.
And I thought that's interesting because it's a way to, I mean, labor's always a problem on farms, right?
Yeah.
So wanted to ask you about that because it sounds like a way to get people involved productively on the farm without hiring them as a actual employee. Can you tell us a bit about how that work share program or whatever you call it works for you?
Yeah. Uh, so it's really nice because also I'm sure a lot of you listeners can relate. You get asked a lot. People want to work on your farm. They want to, but they don't want to be a staff. So it kind of is setting a bit of a standard where people can't just come one time, or, they kind of get at least a little bit trained, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of an idea of how the farm works. It's a formal agreement, which is nice. They're getting something in exchange. That's really important to us on our farm, is like the active exchange. So, and it's lovely because it is community based too. A portion of their work goes towards the amount that we donate to the Parkdale market. So that's cool. They're doing a donation in a way too. And yeah, it's been going well. We cap it at 10 people. It doesn't always work out. Like when we get 10 registrants, it normally averages out to more like 8 or like 6 or 8 that make it all the way through the season and everything works fine. But we do exchange the market cards. No one has abused that system. Like if that's a detail people are interested in, I have access to the card associated with the person. So, I mean, if it doesn't work out, not that anyone has abused it, but you could easily just remove the funds. Yeah, people really enjoy it. They come, we have a separate schedule. We use like a scheduling app for our team, and we have one of our team members runs the workshare end of things. So they do all the communication and the scheduling, and we just have the days that are available for them to be able to come. It's not every day because there's certain days that are better on our farm for people to be coming.
Yeah.
They're expected to be at the morning meeting the same time as everybody, so that 8 o'clock or 1 are the 2 time slots, so that they're able to get associated and filled in on what's happening. They're not coming in the middle of the work time. So there are some expectations because, like I say, it's an exchange, and it
Yeah.
works well having it formal like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's cool because I think you're right. A lot of people have it in their mind or would like to help on a farm, but so few people actually have any farm experience these days. It can be a very different experience than what people are expecting, or maybe they don't even know what to expect. But yeah, obviously, as the farmer, like, it's great that people are interested, but people got to be effective I thought that was a cool way to formalize that. And so what is the like value transfer there? They're getting a $250 market card for how much labor? Or you tell me, what are the numbers on that?
I don't recall off the top of my head,
Okay.
but they're being paid like the regional minimum wage. So
Okay.
they're being treated like an entry-level staff that has no experience, basically. So they're being paid what minimum wage is for this region, which I think is $17.55. So however many hours that works out, but then we ask them to donate a bit. So I think they're working $600 worth of time. So we're giving them 500. We're asking them to donate 100. Yeah, however many days that works out to. I think it's 6 8-hour days, or I don't know, 4. I don't maybe 4. But a lot of people are doing the 4-hour days. We used to have it 8, and that was crazy. People that don't work on farms don't want to work an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
So we almost limit it to 4-hour days now. And to put a point on what you said, we have had people show up for their first shift and be like, actually, like, I'm so thankful for this opportunity, but this is not for me. And then we have some like amazing stories where like one of the people that works with us is an avid at-home gardener. Like, she introduced us to growing ginger. She had grown some in her backyard, and she's now like, when she comes, she knows how to work with the crew. Like, she's not just weeding, she's harvesting with the crew, and she's in her 4th year coming this year. So it's really neat.
Well, that's great. Okay, well that works. I don't actually need the exact, like, I feel like those are plenty of details. If somebody wanted to do that kind of thing on their own farm, they could just translate hours worked into some rate that they plug into the card.
Yeah, and check out the website. Like, people can go check out our website. It's all the details are there too. They might not be fully up to date. I gotta mention, we're updating our website like now, so it's a little outdated, some of the information. But yeah, like the CSA, we don't have 100 members anymore.
Okay. And I wanted to ask, what app are you using for your scheduling then? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Team Up.
Team Up. Okay. That's not one. Yeah. It's not one I'm familiar with, but people can check it out.
It's free.
That's a bonus.
That's what we like.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's good enough. It's probably not the most beautiful app. I think those are more the paid ones, but and we don't really use it to send communication or anything. It's literally just for scheduling.
Yeah. Well, I probably like a lot of things. If you're using the base, like the free version might be fine if you don't even need all the bells and whistles. So cool.
Yeah.
People can check that out if they're looking for that kind of thing. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free. This episode is sponsored by Nifty Hoops. Nifty Hoops designs and builds high tunnel systems for growers who want dependable results. What stands out is that Nifty Hoops tunnels are complete systems designed by experienced builders with the details worked out ahead of time. That means the core components are included from the start, like end walls, ventilation, doors, baseboards, and double-layer poly, rather than being added later. The tunnels are designed for real wind and snow loads, efficient assembly, and long service life. You can choose a self-build kit with guidance from written manuals and videos, or a community build where Nifty Hoops works alongside you and the project gets completed in one day. Nifty Hoops has built more than 1,500 hoop houses across the country, including many funded through the NRCS High Tunnel Initiative. They're known nationwide for predictable outcomes and ongoing support. If you're planning a high tunnel project and want it done right, you can learn more at niftyhoops.com. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand acts as your business coach and assistant, helping you sell out, save time, and grow smarter. From marketing to fulfillment to customer support, Farmhand pulls real data from what's worked and what hasn't for other farms and turns it into websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that give you your time back. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/GFM and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/GFM. Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or vegetables for your family, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment for a harvest you can count on. Rimmel greenhouses are strong, durable, and easy to assemble, offering the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Rimmel greenhouses are proudly built right here in America and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. With technical sales staff members located across the country, many with growing experience, the Rimmel Greenhouses team of experts will serve as your trusted partner every step of the way to ensure that you get exceptional value from your greenhouse investment. Visit rimmel.com to get a quote today. Well, so I wanted to ask you, are there things you do to maintain a happy, healthy team environment with your employees and your work card people?
Yeah, I like to think I'm a good boss, first of all. I think most of our team would say historically, like, I think maintaining a happy, healthy work environment is just as much about like how you show up to the work environment every day and how you approach problems on the farm. And that sets the culture, you know?
Yeah.
But there are also systemic ways to do that as well. Like we have a morning meeting every morning. We have a weekly meeting every week. I have a manager meeting with our farm manager every Monday. She has one-on-ones regularly with the team. And then having systems in place and clear expectations for me is the best way to have a happy, healthy work environment because people thrive with personal autonomy. So knowing what the expectations are and being able to fulfill them and feel good at the end of the day, to me, is the easiest way to make sure you have a happy team.
Yeah. Okay.
Then there's the fluff on top of that, where like last year we started doing pizza days once a month and things like that.
Yeah.
But I really think I think the day-to-day is far more important than the extra stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. But at the same time, the extra stuff is also it's a nice touch.
Oh no, I don't want to. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I definitely agree with you. Like, it's nice to have those moments to connect after work and connect outside of work. And we realized that was something we were missing, and we started doing that last year. Good excuse to get a pizza oven for the deck.
Yeah. Sounds like fun. Are you guys still doing flower CSA?
Yeah, and we're actually trying to promote it more, but it's just only market pickup. So it's similar to the market card in a way.
Mm-hmm. So people prepay it and get a bouquet every market, something like that?
Yeah, and we're going to do it. We're actually going to change it this year. It's not going to be just July and August. We're going to kind of make it more like our vacation share where they can get 8 within a 12-week period. Because we were finding that people were finding it difficult to come every week just for flowers, and it becomes a chore instead of a novelty. So it's easy enough to have a bouquet ready for them July, August, September. So we'll just have a checklist that goes to all of our market locations. And when that person comes, it's fine. Like, yeah. Actually, as I'm saying it, we'll have to have some logistics figured out because they'll have to say where they're going because you'd have to save one for them if they're going to get it there. But yeah, that's something we want to change.
Huh?
But I think logistically we'll have to adjust it slightly because before it was a standard commitment that they would go to that location 8 weeks in a row. This way they might have to pre-order, but that's okay. We'll see if it makes sense.
You'll figure it out.
I think that's one of those things you could easily figure out, but I would like to give more diversity to that. But right now it is a standard 8-week and you have to select your pickup location.
Okay. Do you sell flowers to any of your restaurant accounts at all?
Yeah. It's not super fruitful, but it's one of those things where it's growing. And I think with more promotion, we could even do better. You just kind of have to, like you say, pick where you're putting your energy. And when you have lots of different sales avenues, it's, but yeah, one specifically was getting regular stuff. And then our other ones would just do here and there. And it's a neat system. We just have sort of DIY buckets for the restaurants. It's on our fresh list and they can just order however many stems they want, basically.
Okay, yeah, because I know so many restaurants, not even particularly fancy ones, sometimes have like a flower on the table or something like that. Or I know some bigger restaurants have arrangements and stuff like that. So it just occurred to me, I was, like I wanted to ask since you're going there anyway. So that makes sense that you are dropping flowers off to some of them too. I mean,
yeah. And we've explored different ideas with it, like that we haven't really done a deep dive, but just some concepts while you're brainstorming. We've thought it would be cool, like a bud vase subscription for restaurants would be neat.
Yeah.
They could, you could provide the bud vases and just bring the flowers to fill them every week, or they could have the bud vases, whatever. But promoting it that way would be neat. Right now, we're just kind of keeping it simple with the DIY fresh list. And we could sort of probe them more too, asking all of them. Normally you're dealing with chefs though, and that's done by the front of house. So you have to get in touch with who's in the front of house. Who are they ordering flowers from? Are they just going down the street and getting a bouquet for the front door? Or you know what I mean? So it's a whole separate avenue of conversation.
Yeah. That's a good point that I had not thought of. Is you're right. The chefs probably aren't ordering the flowers.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, one question I had, since I know you do veg and flowers, is post-harvest handling. So I know a lot of vegetables give off ethylene gas that promotes ripening, and a lot of flowers are very sensitive to ethylene, which will reduce the vase life. Do you guys have separate storage areas for veg and flowers, or otherwise, how do you keep the flowers away from ethylene in cooler or post-harvest?
Yeah, that's tricky. We have 2 fridges, so it is a bit of a juggle. And one of our major things we want to get is a third flower fridge. So we have 2 fridges currently. And yes, the flowers have to be juggled through to avoid that. And we do keep one warmer, so that helps for the ones that are more likely to produce ethylene.
Huh.
So that's convenient. But the flowers are, as that business is growing and our vegetable business is growing as well, it's becoming a little bit, space heavy. And also, to be frank, we just last year converted our old chicken coop to be like our flower hut. So that's where all the flower work is being done. It's a really nice space for like the storage and things. So it's a little bit further away from the fridges. So that's also in the principles of lean farming kind of becoming inefficient. So we want the fridge next to that, like running off of that flower hut anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Less running around you have to do. It's always better.
And just like you said, it's another thing to worry about, like the flowers and the veg, and then you're sort of it's another thing for people that need to figure out. And it's just, if you can lower the noise on the farm as much as possible for everyone, then we can work better, more efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's always plenty going on.
Yeah.
You could always simplify, I think. All right. Well, and when we were talking, you said that you put an emphasis on building your soil health, which I wanted to ask about because I think soil health is finally getting the attention it deserves. And I wanted to ask if there are specific things that you're doing to build soil health, in addition to being mostly no-till, which I say because I do. I mean, I think it's pretty well understood that there are certain benefits, like not disturbing mycelial networks and things like that. Like, I think there's certain things that are going to tend to build soil health just being no-till or mostly so. So I see that I see being mostly no-till as a, like a soil health practice in itself. Are there other things that you're doing specifically to build soil health?
I think I touched on them, that's the extent of us, is just sort of the only one I wouldn't have said is like crop rotation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I think that's just an overall consciousness. So crop rotation, keeping roots in the ground as much as possible. Sometimes that's a benefit. You get to be lazy in the fall, so we're not rushing to pull out our kale or our Swiss chard or some things we get to pat ourselves on the back, just leaving them as they are. You just mow it and leave the landscape fabric on and then deal with that in the spring. So sometimes the lazy approach is better there.
Yeah.
We do use tarps quite a bit. And I think for this model, it's quite necessary.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, cover crops where we can. That's also just with experience getting easier with the planning and having the time and space to do so. And yeah, I think really that's how we're trying to do it.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Another thing, I know you said that you are continuing to extend your season later and later. In fact, I think we had talked about doing an interview and like a month later, you were like busy doing season extension stuff. And so here we are. But I wanted to ask, what does pushing the season later and later look like for you? What does that mean for you functionally on the farm? What are you doing to push the season?
This is a great opportunity to sort of touch on a mind shift that happened with me when I read The Winter Market Gardener it's written by Kat Sylvestre and Jean Martin.
Yeah, we sell the book through Growing for Market. I mean, I've read it. We sell it. Yeah, it's a good book.
Great book for anyone. Yeah. And I view it now less as winter farming and more as season extension and really capitalizing. I realized through reading that book that we weren't really capitalizing on our infrastructure as much as we should have been.
Okay.
Just under the mindset that we knew we didn't want to farm in winter, which is totally fair. But when I started to realize okay, we employ people till November and beyond for pack up anyways. If it just means pulling our tomatoes out a little bit earlier and having some things ready in the nursery and it's going to give us product all the way until November and into December, then why not start planning a little bit better for this? And yeah, working a couple more days a little bit longer into the season. And so wraps up the second year of really sort of tackling this. I'm still going to call it extending the season. I don't want to call it winter farming yet. I don't think I'm willing to admit it. But we did farm right up until like December this year. But then then we're not doing anything until like the end of February now, or mid to end February now. But it was great. And I think I could share a little bit. It's just like anything, we're learning as we go. So last year we weren't great at it. So I was like, oh, we sold it all. Amazing. This year we did a lot better. And shout out to like our farm manager, Bryn. She had done a work exchange at Ferme Quatreton and she helped me with the crop plan. And so we put our heads together with the book and the crop plan was excellent. But then we realized that like our chefs aren't ordering what the chefs at it was really modeled after the book and after what they're doing there, what Kat had sort of written out and what Bryn had experienced. And yeah, we try selling Senpozai and we just found it. So I ended up having to work a few more markets than I wanted to into December to sell all this produce that we had grown hoping to sell to chefs.
Yeah.
So one of those things where learn as you go. And next year we'll adjust it. And also maybe we still will do the winter markets, but maybe I'll be prepared more. I didn't know I was going to be working markets. I didn't have anybody scheduled. And that's normally when I'm looking to slow down. To be completely honest, it was pretty hard. And it's hard on me. I was like not down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny how like certain systems you change like one thing and have unintended consequences.
That is exactly it.
Well, now you know for next year that you got to have somebody to work those markets. I mean, it's really
Either work those markets or sell different. Like we're going to grow a lot of different too. Don't get me wrong. We're going to grow a lot more salad, use that space for like salad, spinach. That's the big takeaway. But also I don't mind working the markets if I know I'm sharing every second one with someone or something like that too.
Yeah.
You can plan better. And then you're also not throwing it on one of your staff either. That's not something I wanted to do either. Is like, fortunately, our crew did to come together. They sort of knew I was gassed, and some of the market people that have helped throughout the year took on a couple, and it ended up being totally fine. But
yeah.
The initial shock was crazy.
Yeah. Well, or that's up to you to manage too, right? Is to say like, wow, like if we're going to grow later into the year, then maybe you add that to the job description for the market people, right?
Definitely. Yeah. It's just, it's part of the learning experience. Like you said, when we were doing it for our second time and we were like, we got 2 greenhouses full, everything's growing really well. Some of the things aren't going to chefs. So I'm looking at a full bed of celery, a full bed of Swiss chard, and I'm thinking, okay, we got to move this product. So exactly. Next year we'll plan completely different and be ready for it. And it's a great, exciting opportunity. It's really nice. And I'm looking forward to the inverse in the spring too. Like we extended our season last year earlier. This year I'm looking to get both greenhouses hopefully fully flipped before tomatoes go in. And we'll see how it works.
Yeah. Is that a matter of like, are they heated? Is that just a matter of turning the heat on earlier, or like just planting cold hardy crops earlier?
We're going to do a mix. So that'll be a nice learning experience as well. And that's the same thing we did in the fall. We did 1 heated to 3 degrees and 1 completely unheated with row cover.
Mm-hmm.
And this spring we'll do the same, and it will be the same greenhouses that we do that system. So 1 will be unheated until mid-April.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 will be partially heated, and it'll be a nice opportunity also to sort of witness those differences.
Cool. I know when you said you're passionate about crop planning, and I'm guessing you're doing some of that now for the rest of 2026. How do you plan out all the moving parts as far as crops on your farm?
Well, first off, I'm a big fan of Heirloom.
Okay.
I love using the software, and that is like the Crop Plan Accelerator program. I teach using that.
Okay, so we should say, that's a Market Gardener. Heirloom is Market Gardener Institute software, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
in fact, I had Jean Martin on the pod probably like 2 years ago, right when Heirloom was coming out. So it might be it's been a while. People might not have caught that episode, but if people are really interested in Heirloom, I did talk a bit with Jean Martin about that. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your role.
No, that's great.
Just some context for people, in case they hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah, exactly. And I find it to be a really good software. It's only improving. They're constantly working on it, and I really like to work with it. So that is how we plan our farm, and then we take a sales focused approach.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at what volume of product we can move in each sales avenue each week, and then working from there to target what we want to harvest and working backward from there. Then that's the point where you put it into Heirloom. And when you sort of create your game plan based on your sales avenues, then you're able to map it, and then it has the associated tasks. So then each week you're just looking at it. There's on our farm, we do a bit of taking the data out and putting it into binders for the associated areas on the farm, nursery, direct seeding. And then we reference it weekly for our to-do list, but we also do a field walk. And then that sort of informs our weekly meeting. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. And I'm also thinking, like, what is Heirloom doing for your planning process more than, say, just plugging it into a spreadsheet, right? Like,
so I personally find the hardest part of a crop plan is it's not just saying what you want to do, but you also have to, and for anyone that's done it from like the grassroots, like even before the Masterclass or even before all this data came out, like what I remember 10 years ago doing my first crop plan.
Yeah.
So every crop you're doing, you have to go, okay, what's our spacing? okay, so then how many plants are going to be in a 100-foot bed? And then that's one crop. And then you're like, what's the days to maturity? Okay, we have to work backwards to there. We're going to input that. And then that's when we're going to plant that. So things have come along now where people have spreadsheets where you can put that data in and then you create the planting and it'll do that. But then also when you extract that data, if you change anything, then you have to be conscious of, there's fallout from every action you do if you change anything.
Yeah.
And so between one location to another, you have to be really conscious that you're not missing a step. So what I do find really nice about using software is that when you enter something in, if you've done your crop charts properly, so we're putting in the data for how many plants, what the spacing is, what the days to maturity are, how many days in the nursery it is, you're doing all that information up front before you start working for your specific scenario, so that when you create plantings, it generates all of it for you. And if you change something, so you don't like something in your map, so you go and you change it. It needs to be a week earlier to fit the next planting in. All the associated information changes as you do that. You don't have to, it's not as much sort of trying to wrap your head around, okay, did I fix this? Did I fix that? Because the wheels can fall off pretty quick, I find, when you're changing things in the crop plan. It's a lot of mental load.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of like farm machinery. It can get a lot done, but it can also do a lot of damage if it's doing the wrong things. It's updating. It sounds like it's updating as you're making changes to the crop plan. Is it come preloaded with like basic farm things, like it's assuming you're going to plant lettuce at a certain bed width with a certain spacing, and you can customize it if you use different from like the standard, or do you have to program all that stuff from the beginning?
No, it's got, most of the data is like populated. So it's already got standard, almost everything, because it's calculating also your revenue too. So it's calculating like what your average amount of bunches from a 100-foot bed or like whatever foot bed, bed feet, yield per bed foot is calculated value. So, and you can update all of that. But yes, row spacing, rows per bed, seeds necessary for direct seeding, it generates it. You can adjust your safety margin. So like it does have everything. It even has some suggested associated tasks. So say you create a beet planting, it's saying to go out and biodisc 14 days later and then hand weed 21 days later. So those tasks are being generated.
Okay. And does it operate on, you're like, I want 100 pounds of salad mix a week from July to September, and then it tells you to be planting, your Salanova seeds 3 weeks before that or whatever. Is that like, can you make a crop plan based on output, based on what you want to be harvesting? Or you tell me how, like, I haven't used it. So how?
Well, that's kind of what I teach in the Crop Plan Accelerator program is because there's a massive gap in people's mentality, I find, with creating a crop plan, because you know what you think, you kind of have an idea in your head of what you want.
Yeah.
But you don't fully know. So what we do is we sort of build it from the ground up. You're looking at what you're going to move of each sales avenue to start to have your target harvest, like you're kind of saying, your target harvest for a period. And then what we do is sort of use that information to advise people on the amount of bed space they need. And then they're creating their plan based on that.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Because otherwise you're sort of just throwing things in. Like you can't just sort of start crop planning without a sales plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be one of the most basic pieces of advice for farmers is like, don't plant anything until you know where it's going to be sold. Because, I see those emails of like, I just picked 100 pounds of tomatoes. Anybody know where I can move them? Like you never want to be in that situation. So that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And so so I guess I'm asking the right guy here, because you teach that's what Crop Accelerator is essentially how to use Heirloom for crop planning.
Yeah.
And is that a class that's taught like on a certain number of times a year? Or how do people, like, if people are interested in that, how do they engage with the Crop Accelerator?
So we won't be offering any cohorts now until maybe in the fall. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
we've done 3 cohorts now. Like, it is sort of timely. So we did a couple we did one in the fall this past year, and then we did one in the spring and the spring as well last year, and then the fall prior. So we've done 3 cohorts, over 50 students total, not each cohort. We try to keep the cohorts generally not, I don't think over 24 is like, I think is the goal, so that because it is about having a community too and being able to work through. Everyone needs a bit of time, but we also have the online community for it, so that's really nice. And it should mention that they did just update the Masterclass as well. So I did teach the module on crop planning as well. So the new Masterclass, it has different modules. So there's one on marketing or farm design, and my specific one in that is on crop planning.
Oh, cool. Well, is there anything, I mean, I think that's interesting. I think people can look that up if they're interested, right? Because isn't Heirloom itself the kind of thing they can get a free trial? Like, if people are interested, they can they can like go kick the tires and decide if it's something they want to really use for their farm, which it seems like this would be the time to do it anyway.
Absolutely. And my first experience of using Heirloom was actually, I had been doing crop planning the same way for a long time. And yeah, using spreadsheets and doing it, what I was talking about, like mapping it out manually, making sure my plantings are all going to work with successions, going back and adjusting it back in the spreadsheet. So the timing, and then that was my nursery planting schedule, generating a direct seeding schedule. And I was just finding that some of my like things weren't lining up. Like, some of my days to maturity would be off. Exactly what I'm touching on. Like, some of those minor things, I would change something here and then it wouldn't line up, and I'll catch that next year. But it was like always something new, right? It's just not too many touch points. So that is how what you're mentioning, people trying, is exactly what I did. I took my crop plan and I put it into Heirloom. And it took me a week, and it was phenomenal, especially because I had an existing crop plan. It was even easier because it was just sort of plug and play. And then I caught all those mistakes, and then I was super thankful, and I signed up immediately. Like, I did the month trial, and I was like, I love this. And then since then, I've sort of worked with them too, sort of troubleshoot things and stuff like that. So it's really nice.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else you want to say about crop planning before we move on to other stuff? I just, you clearly are intimately familiar with it, so I just want to make sure there wasn't something you were hoping to say that we didn't get to.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think the only thing I would say is,
yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, my other thought is that even if it's not perfect the first year, if you have a plan, it is just going to get better every year as you realize what didn't work about it, year 1 or whatever, then you won't make that mistake again year 2. So I think you're right on there.
I love that. Yes, don't strive for perfection either. Like, but do the best you can, because like you've just said, I would be shocked if there's any farmer that has the exact same crop plan that I've done it for 10 years. I expect that we're going to change it every single year as we move forward. It does get easier though, for sure.
Yeah. How did you get hooked up with the Market Gardener Institute people? I mean, I can imagine, I think they're mostly in Quebec and you're there in Ontario. So there's not a lot of, you guys are fairly close, relatively speaking, but I'm just curious, how did you get hooked up with them?
Was presenting at the Guelph conference. I think it was 2 years ago. I forget what I was presenting on. I think, oh yes, I did a split presentation on, I think the overall thing was adding sales opportunities kind of was it. And then I was too scared to do a 90-minute. So I thought I'd talk about 2 things that I knew, that was restaurants and flowers. So that was easier for me to break it up. So that's the full honest truth, because I was really intimidated by my first 90-minute conference talk.
Well, they must have liked what they saw.
Yeah, no, and I had an opportunity that weekend to sort of meet JM and say hello, and that was huge because I had never met him. And like I said, a lot of where we are now was inspired by him, to be honest, and so that was really nice. And then that sort of sparked an opportunity to work together. So I'm super thankful for it, and it's kind of full circle, really neat.
Yeah. I was thinking from like finding JM's book at the restaurant to now you work with Market Gardener Institute. So yeah, that's a very cool full circle moment right there.
Yeah.
Do you use other systems on your farm other than Heirloom? And I forget what you said, employee management one that you use, but at least it's been recorded. Do you use other like apps and systems and things like that for coordinating the things beyond the crop plan, people, harvest, just to keep everything working together?
Big fan of Google Drive.
Yeah.
So like the team uses Google Drive. So we, in a number of different ways, we use MailChimp. So that's like an email. Obviously, QuickBooks is an incredible tool. I think that's it. The scheduling app. And then, but Google Drive, big time.
Okay, cool. I just like to ask, sometimes people have like, there's just, like the employee scheduler app that you were telling me about that I've forgotten the name of now. You never know. Like people might be using some great tool that you've never heard of. So I always just like to ask. I mean, that's cool. Actually, next week I'm doing an interview with a flower farmer who's also, she's like an email expert. And so actually
Nice.
I knew of her as an email expert. And then I found out she was also a flower farmer. I was like, we've got to talk.
Whoa.
But that's something that's going to be coming in a couple of weeks, just because
Nice.
I figure so many farmers now use email. I think that's a legitimate topic for farmers, is like how to get the most out of all these systems that, a lot of us use, but like, I don't know if we're squeezing the last drop out of our, like, we do use MailChimp, or like my wife is working for a cheesemonger in town who's using Klaviyo, and she's like loving Klaviyo. So now I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should use that. So I'm actually, like, I don't know if that sounds like a dry subject, but I'm actually really looking forward to this interview that I'm doing next week, because I feel like someone who's growing flowers, they'll understand the farm side of things and be able to also tell us about the, email. So I just always like to ask.
I think that sounds like a great topic. And we're putting a more effort into an email list this year, because I do feel like that's an amazing overlooked opportunity, because as Meta kind of gets further and further away from actually allowing you to directly access your followers.
Yeah.
I think there's more and more value in allowing them to sign up for correspondence. And then we're going to give our market regulars a weekly email like we used to give our CSA. So we want to do, here's what's going to market. Here's what's going on the farm. Here's a few recipes. And I'm almost certain that will remind people to go to the market, feel engaged with the farm, and want to support us more often. And then you also gain access to other promotions. Like, I think we want to move that way. And I think I will definitely be checking out that podcast.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really smart, because like you said, like all the Meta platforms are getting more and more like layers of stuff all the time. And what probably a lot of people know, but I'll say it, is that, you don't own your Instagram account, your Facebook account, right? I mean, you could be shut down, you could be hacked like at any point. And so, I mean, this is a very obvious point to make, but that's,
No, that's
one reason I'm interested to talk to them is because you at least own your email list. So if your
100%.
social media goes away, you can still get to your customers, and in some ways more directly than like having, through social media. So
yeah. And there's no way, there's the theory that when you are promoting something, that it actually gets pushed down in the algorithm, that they want to encourage people to be paying for those ad dollars. And there's some, and in my opinion, pretty logical claims that if there's wording that seems promotional, it actually seems to reach less of your following.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert on that stuff, but I think you're right about that. So, all right. Well, I know you mentioned one of the other things you were working on was work-life balance, which I was glad to hear, because I know that's always a challenge. It's very easy to fall into just working without any balance on a farm. So I wanted to ask, what does your work-life balance look like? And are there ways you protect your life? Since in my experience, the farm tends to take over if there are no boundaries in place.
So first thing is the crew, like, we do only work till 4. Of course, there's exceptions, sometimes a little bit later, but even then it's only a couple people to just wrap up and we prioritize people that want to go, so that applies to me as well. So that's really good. I think learning to delegate also helped. Just kind of realizing what's on my plate, setting up a realistic to-do list for the week is helpful. And I'm getting better and better at that. Trying to sort of push the things that shouldn't be on the to-do list this week to next week, and actually acknowledging that, so that they're not weighing on you throughout the week while you're trying to do the things that are more important.
Yeah.
That's been a skill that was learned more so this past year. Making time for family. I kind of have to be honest though. I do love work. I'm a bit of a workaholic. So So while I'm saying this, it's not like a total shut off at 4. Like sometimes I'm working in the evening after the kids go to bed, but that is part of how I unwind personally. Like I do. Your smile just cold.
Why not?
Okay. No, that's so good. So it is like, but also, so I've been limiting that too, to be honest. Like I do sometimes enjoy that. And then sometimes I have realized that it is time to just like read or play a game or whatever. And then also like trying to balance, we have hardline, Dana and I have our Sundays and Mondays off. So that's nice because we were busy with markets on the weekend. Again, work trickles in on Mondays. I do my meetings on Monday morning. So it's more like Sunday fully off, Monday morning meetings, and then afternoon we make sure we're doing something for us.
Yeah. All right. That makes those. I think those are all good strategies for people. Some of them I've tried to implement myself, and yeah, like I don't. Yeah, for a long time. I mean, between farm and GFM, we were just working 7 days a week, and so something like it sounds really simple. I mean, it is simple, obviously, but like the brilliant idea to like make sure you're taking at least a day off. And I get it. Like sometimes work, there's just those times that you gotta do what you gotta do, and work creeps in. But at least having the idea to stick to something like that, at least then you when you're breaking it, when you're out there working on Sunday or whatever your supposed days off are, because yeah, running a small business can be busy and stressful, and I think a farm even more so. It has that category of small businesses.
I do have 2 more things on it.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry to interject, but
No,
I
please.
did before we go on to the next question. Taking time, like as soon as possible, I think these are more tips, but as soon as possible, take a chance to get away from the farm because you also learn how to take away, like just like learning anything, there's going to be a learning curve to getting away from the farm, whether it's like delegating properly and mistakes can be made and you almost learn. So as soon as possible, take a weekend away from your farm or a weekend off or whatever. And then hopefully with the goal of one day, maybe taking a week off in the busy season, because I think that's really important to break it up. And my other tip for people is to don't go for walks in your farm as relaxation. Because I used to think that it was like, because it's in theory, a garden should be a relaxing place.
Yeah.
But I stopped going. I used to go out in the evening and be like, I'm just going to go for a nice walk and I'll appreciate the work and I found that I'm better to just find my outdoor time, not out there because I just see problems.
That's so true. In fact, people used to come out to our farm and be like, "Oh, it's so beautiful and idyllic, and you live in the dream here." And I think like, all I can see is that chicken that's not supposed to be over there. These weeds, you know what I mean? It's like that's the problem. You build a business, you can build a business that's beautiful, but there's still always problems. And so, yeah, actually, I got really into running because I think I need to just go somewhere totally different. And that's helped me a lot, just to find a different, like do something that's completely different than what I'm doing in a completely different frame of reference. So obviously it doesn't have to be running for people, but I experienced the exact same thing. It was hard for me to look at our fields without stressing and thinking about what needed to happen. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. Extracurriculars are huge. Like we're so much more than our farm. And I think that's another thing. Earlier on, my well-being was really directly attached to my personal well-being felt like it was directly attached to our production and the success of the farm. And I think separating those two and seeing problems in the field as just problems in the field. And, it sounds a little bit, but that was a learning curve for me, you know, and it helped me reprioritize and realize the value and the importance of hanging your hat up at the end of the day and really leaving it there and doing your best to be present, present and be where your feet are and be present with your family at the end of the day. Dana and I play soccer, doing things outside of work that serve you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. I love soccer. In fact, that's another way that we blow off steam, because actually my daughter and I go play pickup soccer almost every Sunday.
That's amazing.
Yeah, in fact, that's something I noticed during the pandemic that I really missed. And I realized that privileged in a way. I realized people went through much worse things in the pandemic than like not getting to play pickup soccer every Sunday. But it's something I missed when
Yeah.
when we couldn't do it. And now, like, I'm so happy that, my kids are interested in it. Yeah, because of course that's a whole frame of reference. And whether it's growing for market or farming, I know what you mean. It's hard when it's your livelihood and your passion and all these other things. Sometimes it can be hard to hang it up and not be thinking about what the next thing to do is, but it's so important, especially for these businesses, because I think nobody really gets into farming because, like, they think they're going to make more money than
Yeah.
than some other thing. People tend to get into farming for lifestyle, passion, a mix. It's different for everybody, but a lot of people that I know, ourselves included, it's more than just a job. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's a whole lifestyle, and so it can be hard. Like, I feel like we had to spend, I don't know, how 5 or 7 years, like almost like completely immersed in it to like get the farm off the ground. But
Yep.
then I found myself feeling really burned out by just thinking about the
Yeah.
farm. And I struggled out with growing for market these days, because growing for market gets most of my time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is real to disengage and not just be on the continuous loop of like what needs to come next. So I think that's a really good point about just having something else, having a second place or third place or some other activity that's not farming and crop planning.
Yeah.
So whether it's soccer or running or something else, it doesn't really matter. I think as long as it's something not farming related, just so you can get a brain break. And I
I
think
agree.
I always feel like I come back to it, like I guess it's kind of related, of that. I always, like, a lot of times if I have a problem that I can't figure out the solution right away, I'll sleep on it. Like,
Yeah.
I've realized, I think from enough times of like, sometimes just getting some distance on it, whether that be a sleep or, sometimes you don't have that much time, but just sometimes getting perspective on things can help solve that problem in itself. So I think that's a good tip. Once people are at the point where they can get away, hopefully they're building themselves into a place where they can get away from their business for a little while and come back. Yeah, I guess the problem, I can't guarantee that the problem's going to be solved, but I guarantee that your perspective will be bigger. And sometimes I feel like I think of solutions that I couldn't think of the first time around when I just step away from it. I don't know if it's in my brain is bubbling away on it in the background, or just like you think of new things over time, but that's a good suggestion.
I agree. Like, and it's so wild how that works because it feels so counterintuitive. Like you feel like you have to, it could kill you, you know? You feel
Yeah.
like you have to stick on it. And then I think, like you said, it takes practice doing what you're talking about. Like, I think it's really hard, but you realize that over time that it somehow does yield better results, like giving it a moment, getting it off your mind. And like you say, sleeping on it. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah, it can sound like mumbo jumbo, be like, I'm going to sleep on this, or I'm going to work on this project by not working on it. But it's happened for me enough times,
Yeah.
that where I think at first, sometimes I just couldn't solve the problem, and next morning I'd wake up and have an answer, have an idea how to go about it. I think it's worked for me enough times. I do kind of trust it a little bit now, of like, some like, all right, I'm just gonna go, I'm just gonna sleep on it.
Yeah.
I think that's where the expression comes from. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Another thing that I could build off is just it's kind of going a little back, but Dana and I have weekly meetings. And I think that's real. Like, if you're in a farming relationship and you're not having a weekly meeting with your partner, you must. That's like, and I personally kind of think, even if you're not in a business with your partner, I think a weekly meeting, maybe it's going to be shorter, which would be nice. But no, I'm kidding. I really enjoy them. They help us set up our whole week and make sure we're on the same page for everything regards with business. And then where this ties into business is that I'm the guilty party here. I was always talking about the business, right? And I think other people can probably relate to this. But me knowing that I have a space and a time to talk about it and then setting that aside so that it doesn't slip into dinner talk has been amazing. Like a big change in setting that boundary with work and life balance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. Yeah, we used to do Monday morning meetings. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of farmers did Monday meetings, just because it's, like, maybe you've been doing markets over the weekend and it's time to get back to it and see where the weeds are, see how things have been growing over the weekend. But you're right, by making a distinct discrete, concrete time to talk about business stuff. I never thought about that before, but then it doesn't have to creep out into everything else because you have the
Yeah.
time when you're going to talk about it. Your meeting.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Well, Luke, that's actually the questions that I had for you today, but I did want to ask if there's anything else that I should have asked you about or that you'd like to say before we let you go.
No, this has been awesome. Real pleasure. That's all. That's all I got.
Likewise, you've got a very interesting farm, and I really enjoyed hearing about it. So, well, thank you, because yeah, you've been very generous with your time, and I enjoyed hearing about it. But I do want to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you, either on social media, online, or wherever you want people to look you up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like Terramor Farm is the name of our farm. So that's our website, terramorfarm.com. We also are on Instagram, TikTok. I share some stuff on YouTube as well. And for anyone interested in like consults, I do consulting. So that's an opportunity to sort of get my perspective on your crop plan or anything like that. And I've been having a lot of success. People are really enjoying it. And I remember when we were starting out, I did some consults with Connor Crickmore and Curtis Stone. And there's just so much value, in my opinion. They really helped us in getting some perspective on your specific scenario. So I'm happy to be offering that to people starting out now as well.
Cool. So people, is there a way that they would contact you through the website, or just like hit you up, like DM or email through the website? Does it?
Yeah,
if they're interested in that.
exactly. Email, or we have our link tree through Instagram, and you can book a consult through there, or just email me and I can send you the link for sure. I really
Okay.
appreciate the opportunity.
Cool. All right.
Great.
Well,
Okay.
Luke, thanks you so much. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about your farm. And I hope everything goes great for you in 2026.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
All right. Bye.